Today, I am going to discuss about the measurements and error analysis. First of all, we will discuss about the uncertainty of measurements. The uncertainty of measurements. For example, Alpha is a person having three brothers, and one example is the 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. However, all measurements have some degree of uncertainty that may come from a variety of sources. The process of evaluating the uncertainty associated with a measurement result in often called uncertainty analysis or error analysis. Uncertainty analysis or error analysis. The complete statement of a measured value should include an estimate of the level of confidence associated with the value. Properly reporting an experimental result along with its uncertainty allows other person to make judgments about the quality of the experiment, and it facilitates meaningful comparisons with other similar values of a theoretical predictions. Without an uncertainty estimate, it is impossible to answer the basic scientific questions: does my result agree with a theoretical prediction or results from other experiments? This question is fundamental of deciding if a scientific hypothesis is confirmed or refuted. When we make a measurement, we generally assume that some exact or true value exists based on how we define what is being measured. While we may never know this true value exactly, we attempt to find this ideal quantity to the best of our ability with the time and resources availability. As we make measurements by different methods, or even when making multiple measurements using the same methods, we may obtain slightly different results. So, how do we report our findings for our best estimate of this elusive true value? The most common way to show the range of values that we believe includes the true values. So we can say measurement is equal to best estimate plus minus uncertainty units. Let us take an example. Suppose you want to find a mass of gold ring that you would like to sell to a friend. You don't want to leopardize your friendship, so you want to get an accurate mass of ring in order to charge a fair market price. You estimate the mass to be between 10 grams to 20 grams from how heavy it feels in your hands. But this is not a very precise estimate. After some searching, you find a electronic balance and gives a mass reading of 17.43 grams. While this measurement is much more precise than the original estimate, how do you know that it is accurate, and how confident are you that this measurement represents the value or true value of the ring mass? Since the digital display of balance is limited to two decimal places, you could report the mass as is equal to 17.43 plus minus 0.01 gram. Suppose you use the same electronic balance and obtain several more readings such as 17.46 grams, 17.42 grams, 17.44 grams, and so on. The average mass appears to be in the range of 17.44 plus minus 0.02 grams. By now you may feel confident that you know the mass of the ring to the nearest hundredths of a gram. But how do you know that the true value definitely lies between 17.43 gram and 17.45 gram? Since you want to be honest, you decide to use another balance that gives reading of 17.22 gram. This value is clearly below the range of value found on the first balance. Under normal circumstances, you might not care, but you want to be fair to your friend. So what do you do now? The answer lies in knowing something about the accuracy of each instrument. So now we are going to discuss about the accuracy, precision. Before the lecture, first we discussed about the accuracy and precision. First is the accuracy. It is the closeness of agreement between a measured value and a true or accepted value. Measurement error is the amount of inaccuracy. Next is the precision. Is a measure of how well a result can be determined without a reference to a theoretical or true value. It is the degree of consistency and agreement among independent measurements of the same quantity, also reliability or reproducibility of the results. The precision and the accuracy. The uncertainty can be recognized or calculated with these things. The uncertainty estimate associated with the measurement should account for both the accuracy and precision of the measurement. We can say the relative uncertainty is equal to uncertainty divided by measured quantity. Measured quantity. For example, we have m is equal to 17.5 plus minus 0.5 gram. So we can find the relative uncertainty is equal to 0.5 divided by 75.5, that is 0.006, that is 0.7%. Accuracy is often reported quantitatively by using relative error, and it can be represented at measured value minus expected value divided by expected value. For example, the expected value is equal to 80 gram. So for relative error will be is equal to 17.5 minus 80.0 divided by 80.0, that is minus 0.056 is equal to minus 5.6%. The minus sign here indicates that the measured value is less than the expected values. When analyzing experimental data, it is important that you understand the difference between precision and accuracy. Precision indicates the quality of measurement without any guarantee that the measurement is correct. Accuracy, on the other hand, assumes that there is an ideal value and tells how far your answer is from the ideal right answer. These concepts are directly related to random or systematic errors. So we discuss now types of errors. Types of errors. First is the random errors. Random errors. Random errors are statistical fluctuations in the measured data due to precision limitations of the measurement device. Random errors can be evaluated through statistical analysis and can be reduced by averaging over a large number of observations. Next is the systematic errors. Systematic errors are reproducible inaccuracies that are consistently in the same direction. These errors are difficult to detect and cannot be analyzed statistically. If a systematic error is identified when calibrating against a standard, applying a correction or correction factor to a compensate for the effect can reduce the bias. Unlike random errors, systematic errors cannot be detected or reduced by increasing the number of observations. So far, we are going for the different factors. First is the incomplete definition. First is the incomplete definition. May be systematic or random. One reason that it is impossible to make exact measurements is that the measurement is not always clearly defined. For example, if two different people measure the length of the same string, they would probably get different results because each person may stretch the string with a different tension. The best way to minimize the definition error or errors is to carefully consider the specify the conditions that could affect the measurements. Next is the failure to account for a factor. Failure to account for a factor. Usually systematic. The most challenging part of designing an experiment is trying to control or account for all possible factors, expecting that one independent variable that is being analyzed. For instance, you may inadvertently ignore air resistance when measuring free fall acceleration, or you may fail to account for the effect of the Earth's magnetic field when measuring the field near a small magnet. The best way to account for these sources of error is to brainstorm with your peers about all the factors that could possibly affect your result. This brainstorm should be done before beginning the experiment in order to plan and account for the confounding factors before taking data. Sometimes a correction can be applied to a result after taking data to account for an error that was not detected earlier. Next is the environmental factor. Environmental factors, that is systematic or random. Be aware of errors introduced by your immediate working environment. You may need to take account for or protect your experimental from vibrations, draft, changes in temperature, and electronic noise or other effects from nearby apparatus. Next is the instrument resolution. It is random. All instruments have finite precision that limits the ability to resolve small measurement differences. For instance, a meter stick cannot be used for distinguish distances to a precision much better than about half its smallest scale version. One of the best way to obtain more precise measurement to be used null difference method instead of measuring quantity directly. Null or balance method involves using instrumentation to measure the difference between two similar quantities, one of which is known very accurately and is adjustable. The adjustable reference quantity is varied until the difference is reduced to zero. The two quantities are then balanced and the magnitude of unknown quantity can be found by comparison with a measurement standard. With this method, problems of source instability are eliminated and the measuring instruments can be very sensitive and does not even need a scale. Next is the calibration. It is systematic. Whenever possible, the calibration of an instrument should be checked before taking data. If a calibration standard is not available, the accuracy of the instrument should be checked by comparing with another instrument that is at least as precise, or by consulting the technical data provided by the manufacturer. Calibration errors are usually linear, so that larger values result in greater absolute errors. Next is the zero offset. That is systematic. When making a measurement with a micrometer, caliper, electronic balance, or electrical meter, always check the zero reading first. Re-zero the instrument if possible, or at least measure the record the zero offset so that readings can be corrected later. It is also a good idea to check the zero reading throughout the experiment. Failure to zero a device will result in a constant error that is more significant for smaller measured values than the large ones. Next is the physical variations. It is random. It is always wise to obtain multiple measurements over the widest range possible. Doing so often reveals variations that might otherwise go undetected. These variations may call for closer examination, or they may be combined to find an average value. Next is the parallax. It may be systematic or random. This error can occur whenever there is some distance between the measuring scale and the indicator used to obtain a measurement. If the observer's eye is not squarely aligned with the pointer and scale, the reading may be too high or low. Some analog meters have mirrors to help this for alignment. Next is the instrument drift. It is systematic. Most electronic instruments have readings that drift over time. The amount of the drift is generally not a concern, but occasionally the source of error can be significant. Next is the lag time and hysteresis. Next is the lag time and hysteresis. It is systematic. Some measuring devices require time to reach equilibrium and taking a measurement before the instrument is stable with result in a measurement that is too high or low. A common example is taking temperature reading with a thermometer that has not reached thermal equilibrium with its environmental. A similar effect is hysteresis, where the instrument reading lag behind that appear to have a memory effect as data are taken sequentially, moving up or down through a range of values. Hysteresis is most commonly associated with material that become magnetized with a changing magnetic field is applied. Next is the personal errors. It comes from carelessness, poor technique, or bias on the part of experimenter. The experimenter may measure incorrectly or may use poor technique in taking a measurement or may introduce a bias into measurements by expecting and inadvertently forcing the results to agree with the expected outcomes. Gross personal errors, sometimes called mistakes or blunders, should be avoided and corrected if discovered. As a rule, personal errors are excluded from the errors analysis discussion because it is generally assumed that the experimental result was obtained by following correct procedures. The term human error should be avoided in error analysis discussion because it is too general to be useful. Next is the estimating experimental uncertainty for a single measurement. Estimating experimental uncertainty for a single measurement. Any measurement you make will have some uncertainty associated with it, no matter that precision of your measuring tool. So, how do you determine and report this uncertainty? The uncertainty of single measurement is limited by the precision and accuracy of the measuring instrument, along with the other factors that might affect the ability of the experimenter to make measurements. For example, if you are trying to use a meter stick to measure diameter of a tennis ball, the uncertainty might be plus minus 5 mm. But if you use a vernier calipers, the uncertainty could be reduced maybe plus minus 2 mm. The limiting factor with the meter stick is parallax, while the second case is limited by ambiguity in the definition of the tennis ball's diameter. In both these cases, the uncertainty is greater than the smallest di- divergence marked on the measuring tool. Unfortunately, there is no general rule for the determining the uncertainty in all instruments. The experimental person is the one who can best evaluate the quantify the uncertainty of a measurement based on all the possible factors that affect the results. Therefore, the person making the measurements has the obligation to make the best judgmental possibilities and report the uncertainties in the way that clearly explain the uncertainty representations. As we already discussed, measurement is equal to measured value plus minus standard uncertainty, where plus minus standard uncertainty indicates approximately of 68% confidence interval. Diameter of tennis ball will be is equal to 6.7 plus minus 0.2 centimeter. Next is the estimating uncertainty in repeated measurements. Suppose you time the period of oscillation of a pendulum using a digital instrument. The find time is 0.44 seconds. The single measurement of period suggests a precision of plus minus 0.05 second, but this instrument precision may not give a complete sense of uncertainty. If you repeat the measurement several times and examine the variation among the measured values, you can get a better idea of the uncertainty in a period. For example, here are the result of 5 measurements in the second, such as 0.46 second, 0.44 second, 0.45 second, 0.44 second, and 0.41 second. The average mean is equal to x1 plus x2 up to xn divided by n. For this situation, the best estimate of the period is the average or mean. Whenever possible, repeat a measurement several times and average the results. The average is generally the best estimate of the true value unless the data set is skewed by one or more outliers, which should be examined to determine if they are bad data points that should be omitted from average or valid measurements that requires further investigations. Generally, the more repetitions you make of a measurement, the better this estimate will be, but be careful to avoid wasting time taking more measurements than is necessary for the precision required. Now we are taking an example. The measurement of width of a piece of paper using meter stick, being careful to keep the meter stick parallel to the edge of the paper to avoid a systematic error which would cause the measured value to be consistently higher than correct value. The width of the paper is measured at a number of points on the sheet and the values obtained and entered in a data table. Note that the last digit is only a rough estimate since it is difficult to read a meter stick to nearest tenth of millimeters, that is 0.1 centimeters. For example, we are taking a sheet, observations and width in centimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 observations. First one is a 31.33, next is a 31.15, next is a 31.26, next is a 31.02, next is a 31.20. The average will be is equal to sum of observed width divided by number of observations is equal to 155.96 centimeters divided by 5 is equal to 31.19 centimeters. This average is the best available estimate of the width of the piece of paper, but it is certainly not exact. We would have to average an infinite number of measurements to approach the true mean value, and even then we are not guaranteed that the mean value of accurate because there is still some systematic error from the measuring tool which can never be calibrated perfectly. So how do we express the uncertainty in our average value? On the way to express the variations among the measurements is to use the average deviation. The statistics tells us on average with 50% confidence that how much the individual measurements vary from mean. The standard deviation, that is d is equal to and so on divided by n. However, the standard deviation is the most common way to characterize the spread of a data set. The standard deviation is always slightly greater than the average deviation, and it is used because of its association with the normal distribution that is frequently encountered in statistical analysis. Now we will discuss about the standard deviation. To calculate the standard deviation for a sample of n segments, sum of the all measurements and divide by n to get average or mean. Now subtract this average from each of the n measurements to obtain n deviations. Square each of these n deviations and add them all up. Divide this result by n minus 1 and take the square root. We can write out the formula for the standard deviation as follows. Let the n measurements be called x1, x2 up to xn. Let the average of the n values be called x mod. Then each deviation is given by del xi is equal to xi minus xi mod. For I is the 1, 2 up to n. The standard deviation is the s is equal to under root del x1 square del x2 square up to del xn square divided by n minus 1, that is underscore sigma del xi square upon n minus 1. In our previous example, the average width is the 31.19 here. Now the deviations can be reported as, here is the observation, next is the width in centimeters, next is the deviation in centimeters. Same 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Same sheet 31.33, 31.15, 31.26, 31.02, 31.20, and deviations plus 0.14 is equal to 31.33 minus 31.19 minus 0.04 is equal to 31.15 minus 31.19. These values are same. Plus 0.07 is equal to 31.26 minus 31.19. Next, minus 0.17 is equal to 31.02 minus 31.19. Same. Plus 0.01 is equal to 31.20 minus 31. And so far the average deviation is D, that is 0.086. The standard deviation is equal to under root 0.14 pi square, 0.04 pi square, 0.07 pi square plus 0.17 pi square, 0.01 का square, divide by 5 minus 1 is equal to 0.12. The significance of the standard deviation is this: if you now make one more measurement using the same meter stick, you can reasonably expect that the new measurement will be within 0.12 centimeter of estimated average of 31.19. In fact, it is reasonable to use the standard deviation as the uncertainty associated with the single new measurement. However, the uncertainty of average value is the standard deviation of the mean, which is always less than the standard deviation. Next is the standard deviation of the mean, that is standard error. Standard deviation of the mean, that is standard error. Standard error. When we report the average value of n measurements, the uncertainty we should associate with the average value is standard deviation of the mean, often called standard error, that is S upon n. The standard error is smaller than standard deviation by a factor of 1 upon root n. This reflects the fact that we expect that uncertainty of the average value to get smaller when we use a large number of measurements, and in the previous example we find the standard error is 0.05 centimeter, where we have divided the standard deviation of 0.12 by root 5. The final result should be reported as average paper width is equal to 31.19 plus minus 0.057. Next is the anomalous formula. Next is the anomalous data. The first step you should take in analyzing data is to examine the data set as a whole to look for patterns and outliers. Anomalous data points that lies outside the general trend of the data may suggest an interesting phenomena that could lead a new discovery, or they may simply be the result of mistake or random fluctuations. In any case, An outlier requires closer examination to determine the cause of unexpected results. Extremely data should never be thrown out without clear justification and explanation, because you may be discarding the most significant part of the investigation. However, if you can clearly justify omitting an inconsistent data point, then you should exclude the outlier from your analysis so that the average value is not skewed far from the true means. Thank you.